Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali to talk our best bets and fades of the week at Gulfstream Park, Turfway, and Aqueduct. We have a ton of Kentucky Derby and Oaks prep action and some other stakes to watch out for. So let's jump right in. And James, tell me what your best bet of the week is and where you're going to play that.
My best bet of the weekend is number 7, Tawny Port in the Grade 2 Diarmida Stakes at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. Tawny Port is a horse that, he ran really well on synthetic tracks early in his career, switched the dirt, ran in the Kentucky Derby, and continued to run on dirt through the summer of his 4-year-old season last year. He finally switched trainers, switched barns to Christophe Comont, and he switched the turf last summer. In his second start, he won the John's Call at Saratoga. I thought he looked really sharp that day. I liked that effort. I even liked his runner-up effort in the Cape Henel Open next time out at Delaware Park. And even in his season finale in the Sycamore, he was really in position to challenge for it all in mid-stretch. He just came up a little bit short that day. I thought those efforts were very encouraging, and I simply believe that Tawny Port will continue to improve as a 5-year-old this season on the grass. I don't think he's really catching a strong group of rivals. There's a really one potential lone speed in there in Main Event, and Tawny Port has shown really good tactical foot, positional speed on his turf start. So I expect a favorable trip, and I'll look for a strong showing from Tawny Port. Darin, who do you have for us?
Like that horse. I've always liked him since he broke his maiden. I believe at first asking at Turfway Park. He's always been a nice horse and a cool horse to follow. My best bet is actually at the aforementioned Turfway Park. They have a great card Saturday night featuring the Battaglia, but my best bet comes in the race after the Battaglia, race number 7, third level allowance event going a mile. It is not the favorite Hush of the Storm. It's number 7, Coliseo, going out for trainer Wayne Catalano. Bottom line, guys, this race just does not have a lot of early speed in it. It looks like Coliseo and Pax a Wallop are the two that are going to be forward. And I think that my selection here might be overlooked based on that last effort where he just kind of went around the racetrack and was never really involved in the race. But he got off to a terrible beginning that day, was never involved. Obviously, he doesn't want to be last in a field of 12 early based on his previous running lines. And if you draw a line through that, you go back 2 starts ago, this horse did go wire to wire over the synthetic surface at Turfway Park 2 starts back. He always escapes at a price. He's kept some tough company. He's run against forces like Chasing the Crown at Kentucky Downs. He's run against a good allowance group at Keeneland. I think this is a step down for him from some of the fields that he's faced. I think he's going to have a good, advantageous trip. And based on what this horse goes off each and every start, I think he's definitely going to be a price. So Coliseo to help spice up the late pick 5 sequence, Battaglia night, Ashley, at Turfway Park.
I like it. He was racing on turf last out, switching back to all weather, and looking at Wayne Catalano's stats, third off the layoff, 24%. He's 6 for 12, switching from turf to all weather. So I like that a lot, and the price is even better.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like those trainer stats too. I would have referenced that if Ashley hadn't hit that 6 of 12 going from turf to all weather.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Well, I'm going to talk about the John Battaglia, and I mentioned last week we had a winter money back offer, tried to use it with Carbone, didn't work out so well, but we have another winter money back offer for this race. It's race 6 at Turfway, and I'm going with number 7, Blue Eyed George at 6-1. This is a flameaway colt. He finished second by 4 lengths to the morning line favorite here, Epic Ride, in the 1 mile Leonatus, but this is a race at 1 1/16 of a mile, and Blue Eyed George won at this distance on turf and an allowance at Keeneland 2 back. So I like him stretching out here. He beat a next out winner in that race at Keeneland, and he's a late runner here, so that extra distance might help him out. His trainer Michael McCarthy is a 21% winner on all weather, and Luana Machado is sticking with Blue Eyed George instead of the 4-1 morning line choice Bolts at Midnight. So I like that. That indicates something to me that Machado is sticking with this horse too. So I'm going to take a shot with that 6-1 price. I was a little intrigued by Encino for Brad Cox, but he's running from post 12. Outside posts are just not doing well in 8.5 furlong races at Turfway. So I'm going with a 6-1 price here in the John Battaglia.
I like it because I think this race is going to be much more wide open than people think. And I don't want to steal James's thunder or getting to his fade later on, but I think there's any one of 5, 6 horses in this field that could win. There's a lot of questions going to synthetic for the first time with some of these horses, and Blue Eye George has proven over it, likely to improve second race back off the layoff, and chased Epic Ride last time, who really took advantage of a very slow pace on the front end, and I question just how good that horse is yet. But yeah, I like it. I always trust Mike McCarthy in a big spot, and Luan Machado is obviously having a sensational meet, James.
Oh yeah, he really is. And you're right. He was hurt, Blue Eyed George, by that lack of pace last time. I look for a better effort on Saturday night.
Well, let's go ahead and stick with James for our fade, since you are fading the morning line favorite in this race. So tell me why you don't like the morning line favorite.
Epic Rod just ran. I mean, I'm looking at him, despite that pedigree, as being more of a one-turn type. He got a 96 Brisnet speed rating, breaking his maiden 2 starts back at 6 furlongs. Stretched to a mile last time in that Leonidas, and his speed ratings dropped, plummeted 12 points. And really just basically just overpowered that short field. He only faced 5 rivals. He had no pace pressure in that race, very dawdling early fractions, and just simply overpowered them with that trip. No way he gets that trip today. You referenced Bold at Midnight earlier. Machado doesn't go with him, but I thought that horse exits a very sharp front running performance at Turfway and will be on the front end for with Martin Garcia, and others in there as well have like some early pace. So I'm looking for a much more legitimate setup that works against Epic Ride, and I think he'll be vulnerable at the mile and 16th distance, Darin.
And I think a horse like Gettysburg Address comes into this race flying under the radar for Brad Cox, who's, I guess he's been and also ran in some tough spots down at Oaklawn Park, but he has never really run a bad race per se. He's just not quite as good as some of the horses that he's run against. And now he's going to try synthetic for the first time. Cox obviously has a lot of 3-year-old contenders spread out all over the country. Why not take advantage of this spot, which he probably figured would come up a bit lighter than some of the other Derby preps, where you can potentially earn some significant Derby points in a field that maybe is going to be a little bit lighter than some of the other races that we've seen. So Gettysburg Address, I thought at 6-1 was interesting, but I definitely agree that Epic Ride at a short price is something you want to take a stand against. My fade actually goes to a race we're kind of dancing around each other in different spots, James, but you have your best bet in the Mac Diarmida, and my fade comes in that same race with number 10 King Max. Admittedly, at the point of this recording, there's no morning line yet, but I do expect this horse to go off favored based on his effort in the Pegasus World Cup Turf. He was second, 2 starts back behind Main Event, who's got speed from the rail. My take on this is simple. He's a nice horse. He ran fine last time out in the Pegasus World Cup Turf, but since coming to the United States, all he's done is won 2 allowance races at Monmouth Park. This race is obviously tougher than that. He's running against some horses like Tawny Port that James talked about earlier that I respect. There's some horses that are developing right now, like Headline News, who I certainly think are more intriguing. There's some horses that are in good form. King Max is stretching out to 1 mile and 3/8 for the first time here in the States. He's got a couple of runs overseas going a route of ground at 1.25 miles and beyond. But if you watch those replays, I thought he was getting a bit late there in the stretch, where he seemed like he was pretty much at the end of his rope, going 1.25 miles, where he just kind of was even, not finishing with a flourish, not showing that big turn of foot. I'm not sure the stretch out to 1 mile and 3/8 benefits this horse. So there's a couple of reasons here, Ashley, why I think King Max is a good fade here in the Mac Diarmida.
I agree with you. He's over 2 at Gulfstream, and I don't like that outside post, so I'm going to fade him as well. And I'm going to take it to the final race at Gulfstream, the Fountain of Youth, the Kentucky Derby prep race worth 50 points to the winner. And I hope I don't have to stick my foot in my mouth here, but I am fading Dornoch again. I faded him for the Remsen on the Jury. He did, in fact, win the Remsen by a nose. He was overtaken in the stretch by Sierra Leone and then rallied to win. But I'm going to fade him again here. I think he's going to be 2-1. At least that was what I saw on Twitter before we recorded. He's likely the 2-1 morning line favorite here. And he's going to be racing at 101/8 of a mile again. I'm not sure if we're going to get a muddy track, but he was racing on a muddy track in the Remsen. And, of course, the big storyline too is he's a full brother to Mage, the winner of last year's Kentucky Derby. But trainer Danny Gargan already came out and said that he really doesn't want to see a big figure out of Dornoch here. He's trying to maintain him for the first Saturday in May. And he said, don't get me wrong, we'd like to win the Fountain of Youth, but it's really not the goal. So hearing him say that, I don't think he's overly confident in Dornoch in this spot. And James, you had mentioned too that originally the Withers, I believe, was the target in February, and then looking at his work tab, you know, some spaces in his workouts, and now he's here at the Fountain of Youth. So I'm not feeling overly confident. I wasn't overly confident in the Remsen. I was wrong there, but I'm hoping I'm not wrong this time to fade him. I like a debut maiden winner in Speakeasy as, you know, a potential winner in this field. Had a big brisnet speed figure on debut. And I think Victory Avenue, who finished second in that maiden special weight, looks really interesting here as well. So I'm fading Dornoch. What do you all think? James, are you fading Dornoch?
I think Victory Avenue will make it difficult on Dornoch. I mean, Dornoch, obviously, he's got this class. If he got out on an easy lead, that would enhance his chances, but I don't see it. And I am a little worried about, like, I mean, Gargan, after that, Remsen insinuated that he wouldn't need much time off. He'd be raring to go. And he was going to look at February's withers and then skip like a March prep and bring him back. He's basically just talking, running him twice at 1 1/8 before the 1 1/4 Kentucky Derby. And then you referenced it. He didn't even get back in time. He didn't get back in the work tab by the withers. And then his first couple of works were 8 or 9 days in between them. So I haven't, I got a little bit of doubts, you know, with that, how sharp he'll actually be, especially after reading those comments, Darin.
Yeah, this race is going to be my what else to talk about, so I'll save a lot of it for that. But I'll just say, in general terms, these Derby preps are becoming more and more of a puzzle because horses are returning off their 2-year-old layoffs later and later in the season. And it's getting harder and harder to figure out who's going to be ready right out of the box because all these trainers tell you the same thing. This race isn't the goal. We have the first Saturday in May circled. And then you're looking at the race and saying, well, he's the fastest horse in the race, but the trainer's basically telling me he's 75% right now. So it's getting really hard to navigate your way through these Derby prep races. And I'll go into more details when we get into our what else.
Well, Darin, we'll let you talk about that next. But first, what promos do we have at TwinSpires this weekend?
Yeah, we are loaded with promos this week, and I think we've got nothing less than 10 or 11 on the website. So there's something for everybody. We'll start off with the Road to the Kentucky Derby profit boost, 15% profit boost on win exacta, trifecta, and superfecta wagers on selected tracks. And the selected track, of course, this Saturday, no surprise on the Road to the Derby, is Gulfstream Park. Not just the Fountain of Youth itself, the entire card you can earn a 15% profit boost on. So be sure to opt in there. Check out all the details of that one. We've got on Friday night at Turfway Park a 15% win bonus. It is on a single win bet on a horse Fridays nights throughout the month of March. 15% win bonus on those win wagers at Turfway Park. So be sure to take a look at that. The winter money back rolls on into March. We've got selected races that include the Gotham Stakes and the Battaglia Memorial on Saturday. We also have races planned for Friday and Sunday, so be sure to be opted into the winter money back. And we've got a flash promo, guys. It's not even up on the site yet, but I'm going to tell you about it. We're adding a $5,000 challenge for the fairgrounds and Turfway Park on Saturday. What this is going to be is 4 races at both the fairgrounds and Turfway Park. You've got to make a $10 win wager on each of those races. The person who has the most winners from those 8 races, $5,000. So you could literally turn $80 into $5,000 by just making 8 win bets, incorporating the fairgrounds card. They have a great card with some stakes. And of course, the Battaglia card at Turfway. That should be up on the site, hopefully by the time we post this. If not, it'll be there soon. I promise. We're working on getting it up now. It's kind of one of those last minute, let's throw something else at the players. But you know us, guys. We love the players. We love giving back. And this Saturday, there is just a ton of stuff going on at TwinSpires.
Got a lot of good stuff. And I'll go ahead and stick with you, Darin, since we're already talking the Fountain of Youth. Tell me more about this field.
Yeah, this is just a really cool race. So you talked about Dornoch, who of course is the brother to Mage. Victory Avenue is owned by the connections and trained by the connections of Mage last year. So you've got Victory Avenue, who's going out for the Mage connections against Mage's brother, which is interesting. You got the horse that beat Victory Avenue, who up until this past Saturday had run the fastest Ragusan sheet figure of any 3-year-old eligible for the Kentucky Derby when he broke his maiden. He ran a 7 1/4 that day. Forever Young, for those scoring at home, ran a 6 1/4 in the Saudi Derby and is now the fastest Derby prep winner that we've seen so far. So you got Speakeasy with speed from the inside. You got Victory Avenue with speed. You know Dornoch wants to go forward. So there's plenty of early foot. You got Locked coming in off the layoff as well. I think this race might set up for something like a little bit crazy to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised at all to see like a horse like Frankie's Empire, a real macho who's got a win over the track and has been running more consistently and have a bit more seasoning, step up at a number and really run a good race here. Because like I said, these races, a lot of the times we see horses run a good second, a good third. Maybe they're not fully cranked yet as they get them ready for the road to the Triple Crown and the Kentucky Derby itself. While some of these horses that are kind of out of the spotlight, that have been running a little bit more frequently and have a little bit more seasoning under their belt, might be a little bit more fit at this time of the year and can jump up and spring an upset. So I think that's how I'm going to handicap this race, guys. I think this one might be ripe for the picking.
Yeah, that was good information. And listen, Forever Young's got to prove he can take kickback, so I'm not even looking at him for the Derby yet. I'll go with what else? I'll mention the Gotham at Saturday at Aqueduct. Number 10, Just a Touch, is going to make his stakes debut in there for Brad Cox. He's one of 4 runners in the field for Brad Cox. And Brad Cox did not have his first Kentucky Derby starter until 2021. And in just 3 years, he's run 9 horses in the race. He had 2 in 21, 3 in 22, and 4 horses entered last year. He has got a number of horses as well this year. Obviously, Timberlake won the Rebel last weekend. And I think Just This Touch has some of the rumors I've heard, some of the people I've talked to, that barn just could not be any more bullish on his potential. So I expect him to take a lot of money off of a 4+ length win, going 6 furlongs in the slop at Fairgrounds in late January. I know that's your favorite recipe, Darin, for betting horses off of those sloppy maiden wins. And but it will be interesting to see whether he's the real deal or not. He's a justified colt, and so far it looks extremely promising, Ashley and Darin, and we'll see if he lives up to the hype in the Gotham. Just a touch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to knock any horse that debuted the way he did. I don't think anybody was beating him, regardless of the track condition that day. But Brad Cox has had 9 in the last 3 years. He might have 9 in this Derby alone, the way it's shaping up right now. The one thing I'll say, Ashley, about this Gotham, and I get to do the expert picks for Aqueduct on Saturdays and Sundays. This field might have more talent in it than a Gotham Stakes that I can remember in quite a while. Because even if there's not a Derby winner in this field, and there could be. But Deterministic was a hot commodity over the summer. Bergen looked like a good thing winning the Wingfield. I think he's a talented runner. Just a Touch is good. I think Lightline has a big future as well. And Capital Idea, who had a blowout victory at Aqueduct as well, could be any kind. So this is probably one of the stronger editions of the Gotham guys that I can remember in quite some time.
El Grandeo also beating a nose in the Withers, so not sure if get the win here, but
gotta love a 3-year-old in February that's got 10 lifetime starts. Kudos to the connections there.
I know, it's a lot.
What a hard knocker he is.
He is a throwback.
I like Bergen's win last time at 6 furlongs. I agree. He's very intriguing as well for Brad Cox in there.
Real quick, I'll mention we have a Kentucky Oaks prep at Gulfstream, and it's going to be the 3-year-old debut of Just FYI, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in November. Really the filly to beat here. And, you know, coming off a huge Brisnet speed figure, her speed figures continue to improve with every start. She's 3 for 3 for her career. But the other interesting horse in this field is number 2, Leslie's Rose, who's 2 for 2 lifetime right now. A Todd Pletcher filly who broke her maiden at Aqueduct by 9 1/4 lengths and she stretched out to 7 furlongs at Gulfstream in January in an allowance and beat a next out winner, posting a 96 Brisnet speed figure. Don't know if she has a chance to play spoiler to Just FYI, who's a very, very good filly, but certainly think she could be one to watch going forward too. Maybe could make the Kentucky Oaks field as well. So 2 interesting horses to keep an eye on in this race at Gulfstream as well.
I think she's vulnerable returning in March against this sprint field. I mean, I definitely think the Pletcher's filly's got a huge chance.
Yeah, this is kind of the same thing that we talked about with these horses that are just coming back and starting their careers later and later, again, running against horses that may have a bit more seasoning. You know, I would definitely look to a horse like Into Champagne for Ian Wilkes, who I thought's run 2 good races. Is by Into Mischief out of a Speightstown mare. It's a little bit sprinty, but the 1-turn mile at Gulfstream plays to sprints, and I would certainly side with her at a better number than taking Just FYI off the layoff on the cutback.
All right, well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires Jury. We'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades, and check out all those promos Darin mentioned at twinspires.com or the TwinSpires app.